It is Monday, October 20th, 2025, and 5:01. The special call meeting will now be called to order. We'll begin with a moment of silent reflection for our first responders and the members of the armed forces, followed by an invocation by Commissioner Vice Chairman Darrell Law, and Commissioner Joe Ehrman will lead us in the pledge. Please rise, remove your cover.
Please pray with me. Oh, dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to meet in peace. Father, we know we have turmoil throughout our world, throughout our state, throughout our county, and in some instances throughout our cities. Father, we ask that you guide us and you direct us in making the best decisions possible for this complete county. In your Son's name, we say, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance to the greatest country in the world, the United States.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Well, good evening once again. Thank you all for attending. This is a formidable crowd, and we do appreciate your attendance. Tonight's public hearing is specifically related to the Board of County Commissioners' written notice of action on the fiscal year 2025-2026 Sheriff's Budget request. This is not a special meeting to discuss the budget, and more specifically, the funding level for the sheriff's budget. Indian River County held 2 budget workshops. The second was focused on the sheriff's budget exclusively, as well as the preliminary and final budget hearings, where we adopted the millage rate and the county's overall budget, 3.5475. That adopted budget reduced the amount of the increased request by the sheriff in the proposed budget. Per state requirements, the board must provide written notice to the sheriff of these amendments. Tonight, we'll present those amendments consistent with the $85.77 million budget approved for the sheriff's office. To be clear, Indian River County budget, including the sheriff's allocation, has been adopted. Thank you. And now turn this over to our Deputy County Attorney.
Thank you, Commissioner. Susan Prado, Deputy County Attorney on behalf of Indian River County. So just for clarification, from a legal standpoint, the purpose of this publicly noticed hearing is to clarify the written notice of board action on fiscal year 2025-2026 budget request that was issued on September 22nd, 2025. Florida statute section 30.49 sub 4 grants the Board of County Commissioners the authority to amend, modify, increase, or reduce any or all items of expenditure proposed by the sheriff. Florida statute 30.49 sub 4 also requires a written notice of the board's action of reducing the sheriff's increased budget request. This written notice is to specify items amended, modified, or reduced. This board held the 2 statutorily required budget hearings, one being September 10th and the second being September 17th, 2025. That reduction amount was put into written notice dated September 22nd, 2025, that was issued to the sheriff. This hearing is to go over the specific items that were reduced for clarification and to issue an updated written notice with those clarifications for the benefit of the sheriff. Please note that that does not mean that there was a budget cut from the sheriff's previous budget for 24-25 of $79,691,955. The sheriff's budget is still being increased by $6.8 million, and therefore this is not a cut to his budget, but an increase from $79,691,955 to $85.77 million. Thank you, and I return it over to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. With that, I just want to, for clarification, you saw that there was some documents handed to us that is customary, and those documents will be on permanent record, and they will go to the clerk at the end of the meeting. I just wanted to clarify that. We have a court reporter as well as some video taking place as we speak. I now turn it over to the County Administrator, John Tikanich, as he will deliver the presentation on the budget amendments.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This evening, this is a public hearing on the budget board action on the Sheriff's FY 25-26 budget request. To briefly go over the timeline of events, on July 9th, the board held a budget workshop at which the recommended budget was presented. The millage rate, the proposed millage rate was set. The board subsequently held a special budget workshop specifically for the sheriff's budget on August 11th of 2025, wherein there was continued discussion of the sheriff's budget request. On September 10th, there was a preliminary budget hearing, which considered changes to the recommended budget. Adopted was the tentative millage and the tentative budget. At the final budget hearing on September 17th, there was considered changes to the proposed budget. What was approved and adopted was the millage resolution, the dollar amount, and the budget resolution. This evening, we're having a hearing on the Board of County Commissioners' notice of action for the sheriff's budget. This presentation, formal written notice of the action. We have an opportunity for the sheriff to respond, but noting, as the board chair mentioned, there's no changes to the adopted budget. In terms of the timeline, on May 1st, the sheriff's office submitted its original request for $93,547,675, which was an increase of $14.6 million, or 18.6%. At the July 9th budget workshop, the board requested the county administrator to allocate additional funding to the sheriff without increasing the millage rate. The proposed budget included $83,646,672 for the sheriff's office, which was an increase of $4,734,717, or 6%. On July 23rd, a revised request was received from the sheriff's office amounting to $91,126,840, which was an increase of $12,214,886, or 15.5%. At the August 11th Sheriff's Budget Workshop, the Board of County Commissioners approved an increase of $6 million, or totaling 7.6% over the prior year's budget for the Sheriff's Office. At the September 10th preliminary budget hearing, the Board of County Commissioners approved an increase of $6,861,517, or 8.7% to the sheriff's budget. The total final budget of $85,773,472 was approved. And now just the highlights in terms of the tax roll increase, if the board will recall, countywide was 8.8%, 8.7% in the unincorporated area. This generated $8,681,310 of new additional revenue in the general fund due to the increase in tax roll as we maintain the millage flat. The sheriff funding, the board approved an increase of $6,861,517, or 8.7%. That's a reduction from the initial request of 14.6, along with a revised request of 12.2. The amount of new revenue for the sheriff's budget exceeds 72% of the new additional revenue that was generated for the general fund. The total approved budget for the sheriff, $85,773,472, and an FY 2025-26 approved budget for the sheriff represents an increase of 8.61% over the fiscal year 24-25 budget of $79,961,955. So there's been a lot of discussion regarding the funds, how we can pay for this, where we could pay for additional increases to the sheriff's budget. So I would just like to briefly review some of and provide some understanding in terms of budget and funds. The general fund is the main operating fund for Indian River County. That is a countywide fund. The Municipal Service Taxing Unit, or the MSTU, that fund covers expenditures related to the unincorporated areas of the Indian River County. So these two funds are the ones that fund the sheriff's budget. Next, we have the enterprise fund, or funds. There's several of them. These funds operate like a business, where the service is funded by user charges or fees versus taxes. These revenues are restricted and can only be spent within their respective funds. So I have a couple examples, because we've heard a couple things out there. You're building a $13 million golf course clubhouse at the expense of providing the sheriff additional funds. Unfortunately, the revenues derived from the golfers playing golf or purchasing items from the pro shop will fund the revenue bonds that will fund the construction of the golf clubhouse. None of those revenues can be diverted legally to any other fund. Solid waste disposal district. We've heard that there's the trash tax, or that the $13 million, it's actually $8.9 million, could have been diverted to help fund the sheriff's office. However, those funds are legally restricted. They're non-ad valorem assessments, and they're legally restricted to operate the landfill, collection of residential and commercial waste, and operate the customer convenience centers. Again, they can only be spent on solid waste expenses. The same would go for utilities. The rates and charges and fees that we have related to water and sewer can only fund the utilities fund. These are business enterprise funds. And so I just want to make sure that that's clear. And then the other comment that's been out there is that the county has wasted $34.8 million in consulting costs that could have been diverted and or directed towards helping fund the sheriff's office budget. First, I'd like to note that the $34.8 million covers the fiscal years 22-23 and 23-24. And just by way of categories to help understand where they go, those consulting fees go, you can see $32.1 million go towards our hardcore engineering, which is civil design, for our utility system, for roadways, construction engineering inspection, the inspections related to State Road 60 and 43rd, to any roadway project like 66th Avenue. We also have $1.9 million for building inspection services. Those are private providers. Those are private contractors that we hire to augment our services during the boom years. We also have to do surveying when we do these road projects. That totaled $775,000. And then there's architectural services, $575,402. Some of these expenses are no different than the expenses that the sheriff's office had to pay when they were designing and doing civil engineering plans and site plans as it related to their administrative complex that's being built. The next, in terms of the 5 departments, the top 5 departments, again, these are going to be all infrastructure. Public Works, I mean, they maintain, this past year, we maintained, I want to say we did about 25 miles of roadways. That's resurfacing and having to do, as well as doing some design. Utilities, $10,353,000. And I will tell you that number is not full because we issued is not complete because we issued about a $3.5 million work order to HDR Engineering, who's going to guide nearly $500 million to $1 billion of investment in water, sewer, and reclaimed water. And they have the resources that our staff, in terms of capacity, equipment, modeling, just things that we cannot do in-house. We cannot process applications and review things and handle things. We can handle small projects, but large-scale project like that, couldn't do it. Building and facility services, that's part of the building inspection services, as well as architectural and some fleet. Not fleet, I stand corrected. Natural resources, that's our environment. I mean, coastal management, a lot of that money goes to our consultants that we're doing to monitor the profiles and to prepare the reports as it relates to maintaining our beaches, ensuring that we have the documents necessary and appropriate for the purposes of submitting expenditure or reimbursements. Also to the Indian River Lagoon Management Plan, the Climate Vulnerability Assessment, all those things that we need to do to make sure that we're more resilient and we're also taking care of the environment. Parks and Recreation and Conservation, you have fees here for, these would be related to the master plan, the designing of parks, like Hobart Ball Fields, that's been on the books for how long, and we're getting it done this upcoming year. That's a $4.3 million project. So those equal $32.4 million out of that $34.8 million. But to be more pointed on some of the attention, I know I've received a little bit of the attention on how much the county administration has expended. The total amount for county administration is $628,000. That includes the Urban Services Boundary Study, something that has not been done since the county first adopted it, absent 2 minor modifications. The Impact Fee Study, where we study what the cost of growth is to the impact to the system, to include the correctional, to include public buildings, to include public safety, to include roadways, to include schools. We have to study, and that's in its final phase and will be coming before the board for consideration. IT services, if you recall, we had a change. We needed to have some project management and also do some cybersecurity vulnerability assessment. That $116,000, $917,000, as a result of bringing on that consultant, we've received about $400,000 through a Florida cybersecurity grant. Executive recruiting, that kind of split between administration and the board, just in terms of the county attorney's office, as well as some of our senior directors. $63,000, there's another $11,250 pending as it relates to finalizing their objectives. Our compensation and classification study, we didn't do that in-house. The most effective way to do that is to do it externally from an independent source, because then the employees know that it wasn't just, for lack of a better term, just moving numbers around. We did a full compensation classification study, and we analyzed the knowledge, skills, abilities, what people were doing, properly classified them, and then the titles. We are also, there's still 2 things out there that they're updating, is the job descriptions, and then lastly, our performance appraisal instrument. The last one, I would say, is the economic development study. There's an asterisk there, because that is happening largely in this year, but it did start last year. And that's still, there'll be about another $119,000 if they spend the full amount. But the point is, the county is studying its economic development environment way beyond the expertise and the capacity. And I can say that for somebody that has expertise in there, that can do a shift share analysis, do a quotient analysis. There's a lot that goes into evaluating a market, and they're specialists for that, because we want to identify those businesses and industries that complement our community and don't overrun them. What businesses are going to create the most opportunity for job growth to attract our future generations to come back? So you can see that that's just an overview, because I know this has become in the last month or so a big topic about we spent $34.8 million in 2 years. So next, I want to just kind of go over some budget terms. Functional categories, because this is how a budget is built or designed in terms of the framework. You have your functional categories. If I use the sheriff's office specifically, they have general law enforcement, correction, court services. We have items like general government, debt services, capital projects. We also look at physical environment. We look at the economic environment. We look at other things, but they're categorized by a category or for that, a purpose or the objective of that spending. And then we have object level budgeting. And this has been the debate, between object level and sub-object. Object level focuses on high level objects for broad spending, such as personnel services, all the expenses that are associated with hiring an individual and maintaining them, providing them benefits, covering their workers' comp, health insurance, all those expenses related to personnel. And then we have operating expenses, those expenses that are, non-capital level, but maybe they're equipment, but they're all operating supplies. And then we also have capital outlay. We have debt service and grants or aids or other uses, which is generally related to transfers and stuff. So the next level, which is the most granular level that you can, refined level you could get to, is our sub-object level budgeting. Again, refers to a more detailed level of expenditures, separates each budget item into finer detail. The sub-object codes break down operating expenses, for example, further to specify the proposed expenditure. So when we say, if we have something in our operating expenses and we're gonna buy, a piece of equipment that's gonna help us, improve the way we read plans or do our surveying, whatever that is, it's gonna be specified within that operating expenses. Or it could be office supplies, it could be, we also have shoe allowances and stuff, things that we have to do that related to the basic operations of the county or also the sheriff's office, public safety, the emergency services district. So it just breaks it down to specify what that real expenditure is. And why is this important? See, so section 30.49 subparagraph 3, Florida statute states, the sheriff shall furnish to the board all relevant and pertinent information concerning expenditures made in previous fiscal years and proposed expenditures, including expenditures at the sub-object code level. Obviously, I've added some emphasis there, in accordance with the uniform accounting, because that helps us when we're looking at our budgets to really get down to what are the expenses, what are the items, so we know what we may need to look at the next level up to understand what the full costs are. So in terms of the sheriff's budget as a percent of additional tax revenue and as a percent of the general fund, again, we've mentioned additional $8,681,310 of new revenue in the general fund. That's what the new amount was. It's nowhere close to 12 million or 14.6 million. And the sheriff received 72% of that new revenue. The sheriff's budget as part of the fiscal year 25-26 general fund budget is 53.1%. But I really want to take a deep dive into the sheriff's percent of additional tax roll revenue. Again, 72%. So what happens with the other 28%? You, the board, must fund several things. We must fund differences in the increases for our other constitutional officers, clerk of court, property appraiser, supervisor of elections, tax collector. We also must fund our state agencies, those agencies that are providing a level of service to Indian River County residents, through like the 19th Circuit Court, the state attorney's office, the public defender, the medical examiner, excuse me, the guardian ad litem, New Horizons, and then last is the Board of County Commission for your operating expenses or increases. So let's look at the budget over the past couple years in terms of the sheriff's budget. And if I was to highlight over each one of these green bars, I could just, just to show you, like this one right here is gonna, well, it's not gonna do it. Nope, it's not gonna, it's in the presentation mode. But that's gonna show you that we're in, if I highlighted that, it'll show you 57 million to right here. I'm gonna go to 85.7, then I'm gonna go back to presentation mode. So when we look at this, what that shows, the green bar is the amount of the budget for that fiscal year at the bottom of the slide, the chart. On the left slide is the amount in millions. On the right side is the percentage, which represents and corresponds to that orange line, which has a numerical percent. So in 2020-21, there was a 3.09% increase. In 21-22, there was a 5.13% increase. In 22-23, there was a 12.26% increase. And in 23-24, there was an 8.61% increase. In 24-25, there was a 7.91% increase. And this year, based on the adopted budget, it's an 8.7% increase. So the 5-year increase that would be for after the sheriff, since 2021 going forward, would represent a nearly $7 million increase or 50.28%. I would submit to you that's hardly defunding the law enforcement or the police. So this is the analysis that we shared, and I think it's important because as the board continues to try to maintain, a budget that is fiscally conservative and looks not just to the immediacy, but also looks to the future. The orange bar represents the recommended amount, where they overlap prior to for the 57.8, which includes electricity, going all the way up to the 79.69. Those are adopted budgets. And then when you get to that line at 24-25, that's where they separate. And that's the revised sheriff's request for $91,939,286 versus the adopted, approved $85,773,472. If you extrapolate these out using a basic trend analysis, on our trajectory, you're looking at about $109 million come 29-30. If you use the sheriff's current requested budget or his budget that he requested revised, it'll extrapolate out to $130 million, about a $21 million difference. So with the board action for fiscal year 2025-2026 budget, the sheriff requested $93.5 million budget on May 1st. The sheriff revised his request to $91.1 million on July 23rd, which was after the budget workshop. The Board of County Commissioners approved $85.77 million budget for the sheriff, which represents, again, a $6.8 million, almost $6.9 million budget, or 8.7% increase over last year's budget. So the board, and here's where we come down to the issue as it relates to what we've been asked to clarify in terms of the lawsuit that was filed. So the Board of County Commissioners, pursuant to the statute, may not amend, this is in 3049, subpara 3, may not amend, modify, increase, or reduce any expenditure at the sub-object code level. But then you go down to the next paragraph in the statute, and it says the Board of County Commissioners may amend, modify, increase, or reduce any or all items of expenditures in the proposed budget. Moreover, it goes on further to say the board must provide written notice of its action to the sheriff, and I highlight this, and specify in such notice the specific items amended, modified, increased, or reduced. So we're not allowed to do the sub-object code level, so we need to go to the code level and be specific in that. So this presents that specificity at the code level. The code level for personnel services is object code 10. The approved budget for 24-25 was $59,340,581. The requested budget was $67,639,193. Then that represented a 13.98% increase. The recommendation, based on the adopted budget and is for the board's reduction, and keep in mind on the personnel services during both the second budget workshop and the first preliminary budget hearing, the board entertained several, wage and or salary and wage scenarios to provide all of the sworn personnel average a $9,000 increase, and our civilian personnel within the sheriff's office a $3,500 increase. But it still results in a reduction of $2,260,087 with a revised budget amount of $65,379,106. For object code 30, which is operating expenses, the past year's approved budget was $17,323,730, and the requested budget was $20,645,682, or a 16.09% increase. The proposed Board of County Commission reduction is $2,825,283, and with a revised amount of $17,250,000 and $250,399. Capital outlay, which is object code 60, the approved budget in 24-25 was $2,247,644. The requested budget for 25-26 is $2,841,963, which represents a 20.91% increase in the budget. And the Board of County Commissioners' recommended reduction is $267,999, with a revised amount of $2,573,000 $78,964. So the total budget, again, in 24-25 was $78,911,955. The revised requested budget from the sheriff's office is $91,126,840, which represented a 15.48% increase. And the Board of County Commissioners reduction was recommended is $5,353,369 for a revised budget amended, reduced to $85,773,471. So I think just in terms of just looking at the increase, we already, again, you're providing a $6,861,517 increase for this upcoming year, and that represents an 8.7% increase. So these are specific items or reductions that were considered, and some of these were provided to the sheriff previously, but based on that statutory provision and the sheriff's legal complaint, we have excluded these out. But I do want to remind you again that consistent with section 30.49, subparagraph 12, Florida statutes, in order to effectuate, fulfill, and preserve the independence of sheriff, the sheriffs have the statutory authority to transfer funds between the fund and functional categories and object and sub-object levels after his or her budget has been approved by the Board of County Commissioners. So the sheriff gets to determine what the priorities are with the $85.77 million that you've approved. We are not suggesting and haven't suggested any cuts to, canine food, car seats, anything of that nature, DNA kits. So we're saying that $5,353,369 is a reduction from his request of $12.2 million. So staff's recommendation is to approve the specific object level reductions to the sheriff's FY 25-26 budget request and issue the sheriff revised written notice of board action. With that, I'll return it to the board.
Thank you, County Administrator. At this point, Commissioners, do you have any questions of the County Administrator? Documentation is in front of you and it has been duly presented. Is there anything that you? Seeing no. I did have a question, maybe for clarification. I know you addressed it infinitum on object and sub-object. And again, I realize there's two sections in the statute, but it still seems to be that there's some ambiguity. I understood it, thanks to Roy Raymond, serving with him, but understanding what the budget had to be delivered. And that was always a prepared response as well. But there seems to be some ambiguity between either the sections or a communication challenge. Could you elaborate?
So I'll go to the other slide that shows the last two bullets. And I have the specific statute right here. And can read it in its entirety, but essentially you have two sections. One says the board may not amend. Well, if it starts off with saying the sheriff shall furnish to the Board of County Commissioners or the Budget Commission, we don't have one, so I'll skip that, all relevant and pertinent information concerning expenditures made in previous fiscal years and proposed expenditures with the board deems necessary, including expenditures at the sub-object level in accordance with the uniform accounting system prescribed by the Department of Financial Services. Then it goes on to say that the board may not amend, modify, increase, or reduce any expenditure at the sub-object level. And the last thing it states is the board may not require confidential information concerning details of investigations, which are exempt. And then in section 4 of that, or subparagraph 4, it says the Board of County Commissioners, as appropriate, may require the sheriff to correct mathematical, mechanical, factual, or clerical errors as to the form of the proposed budget. Okay, at the hearings, the board may amend, modify, increase, or reduce any or all items of expenditure in the proposed budget, as certified by the sheriff. and shall approve such budget as amended, modified, increased, or reduced. And that's when it says, and so after that happens, and then there's a period, and then so after that action, then the board or commission, the board must give written notice of its action to the sheriff and specify a notice, in such notice the specific items amended, modified, increased, or reduced. So I'd submit to you what we did first. So there's a conflict between these statutes. It says you can't do it at the sub-object level, but then the other says you got to do it, you got to specify. So what we provided previously, and I even subsequently provided again here, updated, but just so the sheriff has everything that he might need. But this is exactly what based on not doing it at the sub-object level, is what you get in terms of personnel services, operating expenses, capital outlay.
Perhaps maybe this conversation gives way for the sheriff, the only constitutional office, has the ability to interfund at personal discretion.
Yeah, that is correct. And
That
that
just
emanates
happened just
from
a
a
few years ago.
2021 lawsuit with Alachua County, and then a corresponding change in the statute, where it does say in subparagraph 12, notwithstanding any other law, and in order to effectuate, fulfill, and preserve the independence of sheriffs, a sheriff may transfer funds between the fund and functional categories and object and sub-object code levels after his or her budget has been approved by the Board of County Commissioners, City Council, or Budget Commission. And it goes on, says it applies to consolidated governments, consolidated council. So, but the point is, the sheriff has the ability to move money in and throughout this budget right here, this $85.7 million, in any specific object or category or object or sub-object. He can move it as he sees fit, he or she sees fit. Any sheriff can do that to meet the needs of their agency.
As happened in the past practice.
That has happened in many years in past practice.
Thank you. Did anybody else have anything? Okay. Must have been a good presentation. At this point, I see that the sheriff is here, and I'd like to invite the sheriff.
Good evening.
Good evening,
Commissioner.
Sheriff.
Good evening. I'm here today representing not only the dedicated men and women of the Indian River County Sheriff's Office, but also the members of our community whom we have sworn to protect and serve, taxpayers and voters, our constituents and yours. The road leading here today has been contentious, but I still believe we have more common ground than differences. I know we all share a desire to have a safe community, and my passion for that is solely based on my obligations as your elected sheriff and my love of this community. Whether you like me and respect me personally is immaterial, but I expect that you will respect the office of sheriff. It is my preference that we continue to have a cordial and professional relationship. Mr. Chair, I know I should not address commissioners directly, but Sheriff Lohr, you were once a mentor to me. You stood in the back of this room and would complain to me about the county commission buying fire trucks on consent agenda, budget amendments and wild spending. How as a constitutional officer, you are one of one and they are one of five. You would pore over printed copies of their agenda, complaining about the out-of-control county spending. For the past 5 years, I've largely stayed out of county commission matters. I proudly touted my record of 5-0 votes before you. I am focused on the job I was elected to do, protect Indian River County. As I have traveled this county speaking to citizens, I keep hearing the same thing. Keep fighting them, Sheriff. Good for you for standing up for us. I've heard tales of business owners wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars struggling to open businesses because of bureaucracy here at the county. I've heard nightmare stories of people trying to create jobs and open schools and other highly desirable businesses only to be mired in red tape. This budget battle started out with me trying to get what I needed to fund our daily operations, and now I'm carrying the weight of our entire community who feel that the Board of County Commissioners are no longer responsive to their needs. So let's talk about how we got here. I submitted my budget on May 1st, as required by law. A copy of my 104-page detailed line item budget was delivered to all of you by email, and a hard copy was hand-delivered to your offices. Prior to that, I met with Sheriff Lohr on April 15th at my office. I took Commissioner Ehrman to lunch on April 16th at CJ Cannon's. I met with Commissioner Flesher in his office on April 7th. During those meetings, before my budget was in your hands, I explained that this year would be a big ask, that the cost of goods had all gone up, and that my goal was to get our salaries to be competitive with surrounding agencies. After my budget was in your hands, I met with Chairman Flesher again on June 3rd in his office, and Commissioner Adams on June 16th in her office. I spoke with Commissioner Moss on July 4th parade about my budget. I met with County Administrator John Sakanich on multiple occasions, specifically May 22nd at Rio Coco Cafe, June 4th, June 25th, and July 23rd at his office at the County Administration Building. We met again on August 1st at Green Marlin for lunch, again on August 5th at his office, and most recently, last Tuesday, October 14th, again for lunch at Green Marlin. No tax dollars were used for those meetings. Any rhetoric about me not meeting with commissioners or the county administrator are false. In addition to those meetings, Commissioners Moss, Ehrman, and Adams attended a budget presentation given by myself and the unions on June 6th at the Taxpayers Association luncheon at the Vero Beach Yacht Club. This doesn't account for the numerous evening and weekend phone calls with Chairman Flesher throughout this process. The unions and I also gave detailed budget presentations with question and answer sessions at the following: June 2nd at the Republican Club of Indian River at Point West Country Club, June 5th at the Vero Beach Chamber of Commerce, June 10th at the Sebastian Chamber of Commerce at Woody's Barbecue in Sebastian, June 11th at the Sebastian Exchange Club meeting at Captain Hiram's, June 12th at the Sebastian Rotary meeting at the Sebastian Saltwater Restaurant, June 14th to community members at the Indian River County Sheriff's Office Auditorium, June 18th at the Hispanic Conservatives of Indian River at the River House, June 27th at Republicans for Life at the Vero Beach Yacht Club, July 1st at Vero Palm Estates Mobile Home Park in Vero Palm Estates, July 2nd at Sunrise Rotary at the River House, and July 7th to the Vero Beach Neighborhood Group at the IG Center. You have all received emails from a variety of these groups because I have personally seen you at their events in the past. Each of you has my cell phone number as well as my email and know how to reach me. There have been allegations from the dais that commissioners can't reach out to me. You and I both know this is simply untrue. I've always been available 24/7. There have been statements made by commissioners about lunch money and allowance. I am the duly elected sheriff of Indian River County. I'm not subordinate to you. I'm not here to ask you for allowance like a child. I am fulfilling my duty to protect and serve the great citizens, voters, and taxpayers of this county. I had to sue this board to get you to hold this meeting tonight. I regret that I had to sue our county and this board to force you to comply with the law. When you fail to follow the specific requirements of the law, I not only had no choice but to file the suit, but I had the obligation to do so. During the July 7th meeting, I opened by providing you with a printed copy of Florida State Statute 30.49 and highlighted the relevant portion of the statute that you refused to do. It was not said out loud that you support cutting my request and what specifically you are choosing to cut. I conduct $0 budgeting, unlike the county. $0 budgeting is what Governor DeSantis and Florida CFO Blaise Ingoglia all recommend for counties. This board had ample time during all the meetings I listed to conduct good faith negotiations with me. At no point has the county administrator attempted to conduct good faith negotiations with me throughout this process. Arbitrarily choosing to fund a portion of my budget and not saying specifically what you are cutting is not lawful. I appreciate that the board has recognized this and called tonight's meeting to attempt to rectify that portion of this saga. During the negotiations, I provided solutions on my end, including reducing my initial funding request by over $2 million and offering to take on animal control in exchange for the $5 million in your current year budget dedicated to this item. Again, I have tried to negotiate, but I'm continually met with opposition. After the arbitrary or mathematically vague figure of $6.8 million for employee raises was discussed by this commission, it was said from this dais that commissioners did not know what the other $5 million in my budget request was for, that you wish someone from my office was here during the September budget hearings to answer that question. Commissioners, my budget request was provided to you on May 1st of this year. It contained not only every dollar I was requesting, but it detailed exactly where I intended to use that money. It boggles my mind that someone can sit on that dais months after having my detailed budget in their hands and make the statement that they don't know what every dollar of my request was for. You simply needed to read my submitted budget, period. Then, since there was no public sunshine discussion about what would be cut from my budget, as is required by law, it appears you relied on the county administrator to make those decisions for you. The same person who said there was no additional money, but who gave himself an unauthorized raise, but who you later ordered from this dais that he must repay, then somehow approved in what can only be described as an attempt to save face. The cost of everything is up. We can all see it at the gas pump, grocery store, and through our daily living. Our patrol cars run on gas. Our inmates require food. The operational costs of public safety have increased. By not funding the sheriff's office, you are making the decision to cut the services we provide to the public. So yes, as much as I understand it gets under your skin, you are choosing to defund the police. As I said the first time I was here, our agency is tired of the county kicking the can on first responders. It is time to stop acting like the money I requested is not available. Public records have shown this county has spent over $30 million on consultants in just the last 2 years. All that consultant money, and not one of them told you that socializing trash pickup was a bad idea? The fact that this commission took the decision about trash collections out of the hands of the public and forced a tax increase on our community was irresponsible. Indian River County residents are not the customers of Waste Management. A customer has a choice and can decide with their wallet how they want to spend their money. You removed that choice, raised taxes, and forced your constituents to use a private company regardless of the level of service they provide. What's next? Will this commission tell the public what internet service provider they have to use? What grocery store is the government-approved option? Where does your control end, and when will the public's freedom be ensured? Funding part of the salary increases these men and women deserve does not address the advances in law enforcement that are necessary or the rising cost of doing business. The public is asking for better fiscal responsibility from you and for law enforcement to be properly funded. I have heard over and over again how there is no additional money for us. During this budget process, your planning director was arrested for felony drug and forgery charges by authorities in Brevard County, the same place your county administrator came from. Facts that should have been known then came out about your planning director, that he had multiple previous arrests for DUI and may have been arrested on one of those DUIs while he was your employee. Yet he was provided a taxpayer-funded car allowance while employed here. He was not terminated after his felony arrest, but instead remained on the payroll and was allowed to resign and receive a payout of his accrued time. Sheriff Lohr, you rightfully had strict policies about not hiring people with DUIs when you were the sheriff. Yet as a commissioner, this guy appears to have slipped through the cracks and was then afforded more taxpayer money after his felony arrest. I'm told there's another recent separation with similar payouts. We will see what those public records reveal if we ever see them. Ever the eternal optimist, I hope that my words tonight will change your minds. It is time to start listening to your community. You forced socialized trash on us. You authorized a detox center in walking distance from the North County Charter Elementary. You put at the bottom of all your documents, dedicated to Indian River County through service excellence, integrity, responsiveness, collaboration. Those are great buzzwords trying to make it look like you care. Now you have the opportunity to show that you do. I have members of my dedicated staff and a mental health provider for our folks who will each make a short presentation to help you understand the critical needs funded by our full budget request. I will be providing each of you with a copy of their presentation and ask that this be added to the record being made tonight. Will you allow them to speak to you? Chairman?
Sheriff, a lot of people took time to be here, and you know that in the past and currently, anyone and everyone will have the opportunity to be able to express their thoughts to this commission.
Fantastic. I'll invite my team down now. We have a schedule of speakers who are going to come before you. We will also be providing you with printed copies of their presentation for your review.
Sheriff?
Yes.
Before we begin that, just wanted, you mentioned a few things during your presentation, and I will say that some of it was pointed in different directions, rightfully so. I'll tell you that I will say that in the past, we've had great communication, and we have spoke. Did I ever mislead you in any way, shape, or form as to my opinion as to what was taking place? Because I just wanted to talk about the information that you portrayed in the budget request. We did talk about it, and we did have some comments, and that was also, some of that was prior to know exactly how our funding ratio was going to be from the property appraiser as well. So there might have been some anticipation of, and I did hear some comments about what the tax revenue was, about the abundance or lack of later on, and I just wanted to clarify because we had a lot of great conversation about it. Would you agree with that?
We had a lot of conversation throughout the process. Yes, sir. Definitely more than I wanted.
And I did not receive a lunch during that time.
I understand
As
that. I
well,
owe you a lunch.
I realize we mentioned that you
I
had lunch
understand that.
dates, but
Yep.
that
We have
was-
members of our team lined up to present to you. I don't want to waste
I
any
was
more of your
purely
time.
was conversation.
Yes, sir,
correct?
absolutely.
Is there anybody else who would like to address anything that the sheriff has stated? With the sheriff, let's just take, I want to take a brief recess so that we can set up for the presentation.
There's
5
no
minutes.
physical presentation.
I'm going to
You're
take
speaking.
5 minutes.
You take your time. You do what you
Thank
got to
you.
do.
We're just going to break for 5 minutes. Thank you. The meeting will now be called back to order. Thank you for the brief recess. I know that many of you needed to have a break as well. With that in mind, we will invite, as part of the sheriff's presentation, he has additional presentations, and we see the office manager budget coming forward.
Good evening, Chairman and
Good evening.
Commissioners. I'm going to talk about three parts that were cut in the memo that we received from the county administrator. The personnel wages, the request was to provide an average increase of $9,000 to sworn and $3,500 to civilians. If we did this, compression would once again occur throughout our ranks, which we fixed since Sheriff Flowers took office. Additionally, we would not be able to competitively pay our civilians for their duties. With the overtime, the request was to reduce the budget from $1.5 million to $1.2 million, which represents no increase from fiscal year to from 25 to 26. The request was basically to keep it flat. I did originally provide to the county administrator our trend of actuals, but I wanted to state them here for the record. In fiscal year 22, our actual overtime was just under 2.6 million. Our fiscal year 23 overtime was 3.3 million. Fiscal year 24 was 2.6 million, and fiscal year 25 was 2.1 million. These numbers just reflect the gross wages and exclude the respective FICA for Social Security and Medicare taxes, Florida retirement, and workers' comp expenses. Overtime can fluctuate based on caseload, calls for service, and staffing shortages. We do our best and attempt to reduce overtime by flexing hours or allowing for limited comp time to be earned. The only other ways we could reduce overtime is to run our patrol shift short, which obviously would directly impact public safety. We could reduce the time spent on solving cases. Our detectives, they work a lot of overtime. We could tell them to slow it down so that we're not paying overtime, which that will increase the possibility that the case will never be solved and/or the affected public has to wait longer for answers or closure. I'm sure we can all agree that we don't want to do either of those things. For the Axon contract, the request was to reduce the budget from $1.725661 to $1.467259. The county inadvertently did not receive the full set of contracts. I have with me the Axon Master Agreement that I'm going to give the county administrator that verifies the 1.725 that was in our fiscal year 26 budget request. That was due and already paid. My coworkers will attest to some of the other things, but I wanted to add just a few personal notes. A couple key differences between prior administrations and our current administration regarding budget and spending. The sheriff already had mentioned zero-based budgeting. Prior administrations never zero-based budgeting, never implemented that. Sheriff Flowers did his first year. Budgeting for vacant positions. Prior administrations always fully budgeted for the vacancies, as if all of our vacancies were going to be hired 10-1. That never happens. And I think if we did, if somehow we're able to hire all of our vacancies 10-1, we wouldn't be able to handle the training load. The current administration, while working with Kristen the first year of Sheriff Flowers' budget, we phase in vacancies. We look at the different positions, and based on the priority, we decide, can we get these people in 10-1 or as early in the year as possible? We phased in our vacancies. Year-end spending. Prior administrations, year-end spending was a free-for-all, with the only goal being to return back as little to the county as possible. One of the tactics that helped doing that was buying items at 2 to 3 times the cost, just to not send money back. Under Sheriff Flowers, we review the items when we're going through negotiations for the future budget, and we defer expenses for items. We send the county the documentation for any outstanding purchase orders, and the county has worked with us to use those extra funds strategically to purchase the items that we deferred in the future budget. That's never been done until Sheriff Flowers. And then transparency in the budget submission. No prior administration, to my knowledge, has ever provided 45 pages of detail showing every single operating and capital expense. And I just want the commission to understand, because I feel that sometimes there is a lack of appreciation for the sheriff that you have. He's extremely transparent, and he wants to do well by the taxpayers. And considering I am the CFO, I see it, and I'm proud to work for this agency. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a business meeting. There's no reason to applaud. If it was a sporting event, I could understand. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Felicia Stoll, and I am the Real-Time Crime Center Manager, or RTCC as I'll refer to it. Technology is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. It gives us the eyes, ears, and insight that we simply didn't have before. When a high-priority incident occurs, there's no room for hesitation. We need accurate information right then and there. Without proper funding, we lose critical tools. Live video access, intel sharing, and analytical support that helps us stop crimes before they escalate. A suspect from Seminole County fled to Indian River County after viciously beating a man to death with a shovel inside of a mosque. Due to the suspect stealing the victim's vehicle, the license plate reader system was able to alert of its location in Indian River County. When deputies located the vehicle in the parking lot of Sam's Club, a confrontation occurred in which the suspect made verbal and physical threats, resulting in him being shot. This incident was captured on Axon body-worn cameras, as well as the in-car dash cameras, not only allowing the analysts in the RTCC to view it live, but also to offer full transparency of the situation in its entirety. Losing these tools doesn't just affect the RTCC, it affects officer safety. Being able to monitor unfolding incidents, warn deputies of emerging threats, and coordinate faster backup when needed is crucial. There's multiple occasions the RTCC has checked on deputies for various reasons, to include not responding to the radio, keying up the radio during an altercation, and the high priority incidents when they are unable to communicate. These tools are not about convenience, but instead they ensure that those who protect our community return home after each shift. All of the technology and coordination can also help prevent larger scale tragedies. Connecting information in real time, monitoring suspicious activity, sharing intelligence instantly, and recognizing patterns early, the RTCC plays a critical role in preventing orchestrated attacks before they happen. Many of us can recall the tragedy that took place on 9/11. This history reminds us that threats do not always happen far away. Sometimes they can be in our own backyard. The technology used by the RTCC gives us the ability to detect those threats early, connect the dots, and act before tragedy strikes again. Advanced technologies, including artificial intelligence, are enabling criminals to carry out even more powerful and deceptive attacks. Due to criminals utilizing these advancements, we fall behind, and we're giving criminals the upper hand. Without these tools, we are not just cutting costs, we're cutting safety. We have an opportunity to continue to protect our community with smart, proactive policing, and we have come too far to be proven too much to go backwards. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mandy, and I am the COO at Emerald Medical. I stand here today because of the well-being of the Indian River County Sheriff's Office personnel is on the line, and that means the safety of our entire community. At Emerald Medical, we provide round-the-clock mental health support services, a service that has been a literal lifeline. In the past years alone, thanks to this 24/7 availability, we have successfully intervened in dozens of crisis situations for employees and their family members that might have otherwise led to Baker Acts or potentially suicides. This support system has directly contributed to reducing emergency detentions, preserving the dignity and mental health of our officers, and preventing family crises before they escalate. In fact, by having this immediate access to both medical and mental health professionals, we have helped keep numerous deputies on the job and their families intact. We have seen firsthand how these services have mended marriages, supported children, and ensured that those who serve us can continue to do so without the heavy burden of untreated mental health. Now, let me tell you what Emerald Medical's model has been built into access of this crisis. We provide 24/7 access to mental health support, meaning that any officer or their family members in crisis, day or night, can reach out to our staff immediately. The STAR team can reach out to us to help navigate and assist the community interventions as well, ensuring both comprehensive and inclusive modalities are being used. Our team includes veterans and first responders themselves, which means that we understand the culture, the stressors, and the stigma better than anybody else. This support and the services that we provide isn't just a nice to have, it's preventative. It intervenes before the crises escalate, saving emotional trauma, law enforcement resources, and most importantly, lives. These aren't just numbers, these are lives changed. Every dollar invested in these health services translates into a stronger, more resilient law enforcement community. And that in turn means a safer community for us all. I urge you to see the faces behind these numbers and these statistics. Consider the real human impact of preserving this budget line. Let's continue to provide the Sheriff's Office and their families with the support that they need and deserve. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Angela Rosado Jones, and I am the captain of your Indian River County Sheriff Office Local Jail. I want to begin by saying I have 6 items on the agenda that I will address. But before I begin, I want to begin by saying the kind gentleman off to my left said that as we look forward to the future, we have to look for different ways of doing business and doing things in so many words. So in fiscal year 2024, the average cost for the inmates' meals was $1.44 per meal, with a daily count of 476. In fiscal year 2025, we budgeted at $1.51 with a 5.1% contractual increase, which you yourself, commissioners, have said was understanding based on your letter. For 2026, we budgeted at $1.62, and as you can tell, the inmate population has grown for 549 inmates. We have accounted for 73 additional bodies, and that does not include the ICE that's coming into our county jail. With that being said, we also have to account for an interlocal agreement between the Board of Commissioners and the Sheriff's Office, where we have to, after taking care of our inmate population, we have to ensure that we provide meals for our local agencies during a hurricane or a natural disaster. With that, for instance, Hurricane Milton, we provided 970 meals last year, 2 full days of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and 1/3 day of just breakfast by itself. I said that to just say this. The amount of $842,000 that was the suggested number that came back is quite lower than our historical actuals. For in the year of 2022 to 2023, the fiscal year, we budgeted for 476 inmates, yet 4,698 inmates came into the Indian River County Jail, and that took our historical actuals to 849,000. So as you can see, the trend continued. In 2023, once again, we budgeted for the same inmate count with a different dollar amount of 144. The actuals came back at close to $1 million, and the same thing for 2025. Well, with the amount of $8,442, when you do the calculation, approximately based on the numbers that we were given back, we're looking at 201 inmates in our county jail who at some point will not be able to be fed. So I asked this question: who is going to make that decision which inmate eat and which inmate does not eat? Across the United States of America, there's a 3 to 6% increase in the offset of higher foods, labor, and cost supplies. And we ourselves have felt it here. So once again, commissioners, the revised amount of $842 is well below our historical actuals. And with that, I will move on to our lease equipment. In your documentation, the letter, it spoke about leasing equipment. Do you know that the Indian River County Sheriff Office, yes, we have a print shop, but 64% of the jobs that are done are for the Sheriff's Department and other surrounding agencies. By that, if we do not have the budgeted amount, instead of spending the requested lease amount of $60,000 for the equipment, and to purchase a brand-new equipment will be over $75,000, between $60,000 to $75,000 per equipment. But because we lease the equipment, we're able to get the upgrades, the full service, the maintenance, the supplies, all of that comes within that lease amount. So I asked the commissioners this: are we willing to cut the funding where we will have to outsource the printing of our material at the sheriff's office, where we're saving the county $35,000 to $50,000 annually, and if we outsource it, it's going to be greater than that. I move on to the operating supplies. For the last 10 years, we have provided mental health to the mentally troubled in our community. We have provided 2 licensed mental health coordinators to assist with the courts. Funding was also part of what was being cut from operating supplies. Are you aware that with the fundings that would have been removed, or is currently being removed, our 2 licensed mental health coordinators are no longer, or will no longer be able to provide birth certificates, social security cards, driver license, or Florida ID. Once again, we have been doing this for 10 years. Under our operating repairs, you address the lawn maintenance, and you also address the keys. Keys in any facility is a big issue. Lawn maintenance, to outsource lawn maintenance, where we only spend $13,000 currently, to outsource our lawn maintenance is going to be $45,000 a year just for our county jail, to maintain the safety and visibility for me, myself, my staff, and the inmate population. If we outsource our keys, once again, that is another additional high expensive cost. For as you know, prices and materials and everything has doubled. And with that, to purchase 1 key, what would have cost us $100 or $1,000 or $500 for a key is now going to be 3 times the dollar amount. So to outsource a key to be made for a jail is, to me, ridiculous. Because under that, we have a locksmith who is advanced in certification as a locksmith deputy who makes the keys. So we are saving the county money by making our own keys. We only need a funding to have the keys readily available. And with that, the capital outlay, and I would end with that. The capital outlay for the county, as you can know, as our jail, we asked for $161,000, and we were granted and gifted $62,000. However, please keep in mind that right now, under the Florida Model Jail standards, we are in need of stainless steel inmate toilets. We need proper willow locks to secure the inmates inside of the county jail. And we have a refrigerator which now is bulking, which is constantly causing problems for our staff in our warehouse. We are working with a 40-year-old building, a building that constantly has repairs, a building that every time you turn around, you fix it today, and my God, tomorrow, you gotta fix it again. So with that, we are asking for the necessary funding because the little work orders that we start with evolves to bigger capital outlays. But I will end by just saying one more thing, and I beg you for 5 more minutes. As we look forward to tomorrow, I hope that the county will open their eyes and reconsider the dollar amount that is being requested by the sheriff. It is truly a pleasure to serve the community of Indian River County, and with that, I conclude my remarks.
Good evening. Ross Partee with the Indian County Sheriff's Office. I'd like to start with speaking about our service agreements that may be affected by these budget cuts. To start with Axon, and within that Fusus. The Fusus that we have integrates all school cameras, body-worn cameras, traffic cameras, private residence and business cameras, and our helicopter cameras. It all pumps that into our RTCC that Ms. Stoll spoke about a few minutes ago. Fusus helps keep the children of our community safe, helps keep our deputies safe, as it allows the RTCC to remote into the deputy's body-worn camera when they are on a hot call so they can relay pertinent information to responding deputies, as opposed to the on-scene deputy trying to relay information simultaneously while trying to control a crisis situation. Those seconds matter. Every second that our deputies are able to efficiently pursue someone trying to do harm is a life that we are potentially saving. Again with Fusus, as we continue to build out our partnership with the private businesses, we will see the results in our clearance rates. It has already helped with the murder of a homeless man back in 2024. Had we not had the ability to review the video footage immediately without having to go through the store manager or corporate, which sometimes delays that process, we may have lost the footage and quite possibly would have not been able to make the arrest that our team at the Indian River County Sheriff's Office was able to make. Our body-worn cameras has drastically decreased the time it takes to investigate citizen complaints, as we're able to quickly ascertain if the complaint is legitimate. This helps us utilize our time as efficiently as possible. This is all part of the Axon agreement. In-car license plate readers constantly runs vehicle registrations for violations while our deputies are driving and patrolling the streets. This helps our deputies identify drivers that do not need to be on the roadways, and it helps keep our community safe. TASER 10, another part of the Axon agreement, offers us the ability to create more space and de-escalate conflicts due to its 45-foot range. When unable to de-escalate, TASER 10 allows us to deploy 10 individual probes without the need to reload, helps prevent the need to escalate our use of force, and again, keeps us and the community safe. The flock example that Mrs. Stoll gave a few minutes ago was one I was going to touch on, but I'll skip over that. And lastly, in reference to our radar certifications, it speaks for itself. I'd venture to say that everyone on the dais has received a traffic complaint from a constituent. I know that happens. Our radars are an essential part of doing our job. If they are not calibrated, our uniform traffic citations will not stand up in court, and the same goes for our speedometer calibrations. These calibrations help keep our community safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm here, my name is Jody. I'm a health service administrator, and I oversee the medical department in the jail. I'm here with Nancy Loriano. She's our physician assistant and our health authority, and Michelle Brennan, who is our director of nursing. And I just want to briefly touch on what is typically not really thought about is the medical care for inmates while in corrections. Our department is comprised of 26 individuals. I'll say that again, 26, and we service over 500 inmates. Medical and mental providers, I have a LCSW, behavioral health counselor, case manager, medication-assisted treatment nurse, as well as registered nurses and licensed practical nurses, all who work very hard to meet the needs of a very challenging population, as you can imagine. Our inmates range from low to high-level offenders, and similarly, their medical needs range from minute to very significant. Patient acuity presents a growing challenge. An increased number of incarcerated individuals are entering the system with acute injuries, serious illnesses, or unmanaged chronic conditions. The unfortunate reality is many of them, especially those with mental health issues, have been numbing their pain with the use of illegal substances while on the streets. Their life choices have put them at risk for communicable diseases, and some have experienced a decline in health well before their arrests. Those with alcohol or drug addiction have not been seen by a healthcare provider in many years. Others may have sustained injuries which caused their arrest, others during the arrest. So we see our share of lacerations, sprains, abscesses, wounds, and other things like that. But it's not just the minor issues we see. Some examples of significant health conditions we've identified and managed include cancer, endocarditis, lymphoma, discitis, myocardial infarctions, end-stage kidney disease, diabetic ketoacidosis, sepsis, hypertensive crisis, and everything that goes along with addiction, which is withdrawal, seizures, and severe dehydration. We also manage chronic conditions, like I said, such as lung disease and heart disease and hypertension, and let's not forget HIV and hepatitis C. Unfortunately, those are very common amongst our population, and typically they require medications which are very, very costly. Since we've been overseeing the medical department, services such as withdrawal protocols, communicable disease management, dialysis, x-ray, ultrasound, EKGs, dental care, labs are all being provided on site through our own staff who receive specific training, competency-based training, as well as third-party vendors. Mental health presents its own challenge. Last month alone, about 11% of our jail population was under specialized mental health watch. This includes individuals experiencing acute psychiatric symptoms, such as active psychosis, paranoia, combativeness, auditory, and visual hallucinations. Others are placed under special risk observation after expressing suicidal thoughts and tendencies. These individuals require 24-hour monitoring by deputy staff to ensure safety, along with daily checks by our medical team, not to mention the expensive use of psychotropic medications. To put this in perspective, last year our mental health department provided over 4,700 face-to-face sessions, including mental health counseling, substance abuse treatment, crisis response, and psychiatric interventions and evaluations. One of our most impactful initiatives is a group program called Within These Walls, which provides an opportunity for incarcerated individuals to have therapy through music, poetry, and other forms of expression. We're proud that in the 3.5 years we've provided care in the jail, we've seen an undisputed improvement in the standard of care. I'd like to share some data to quantify just how successful we've been. Between 2019 and 2021, prior to us taking over the medical department, there were 417 emergency room transfers from the jail. Since assuming operational control of medical, that number is 207 patients in the last 3 years. 49.6% decreased transfers to the hospital. Our team's ability to identify and recognize early changes in patient conditions and implement timely, appropriate interventions has been a key factor in avoiding patient decline and reducing ER transfers. A comprehensive receiving screen, access to vital medical equipment and supplies, and resources have also contributed to that success. Again, between 2019 and 21, over 4,000 psychiatric evaluations were done. However, since our team took over, we have had a 48% increase with face-to-face mental health support, counseling, and services. As important as it is for us to provide a good standard of care, it is just as important for us to be fiscally responsible with our county dollars. In 2022, we partnered with HealthyMD for communicable disease management and Thrive for substance use disorder treatment. Our partners have elevated the standard of care with us while reducing cost to taxpayers through the support of their grant-funded programs. For example, grant dollars through HealthyMD covers costs for screening, testing, and treatment of patients with hepatitis C. A 3-month treatment would run us, the taxpayers, between $22,000 and $95,000. The cost of a Vivitrol injection, which prevents relapse in individuals with opioid or alcohol dependence, is anywhere between $1,000 and $2,200 per month per patient. The partnerships with both these organizations have contributed to a 46% decrease in our pharmacy costs over the last 3 years. We are also working on future grant initiatives that will allow us to expand our medication-assisted treatment program through a partnership with Central Florida Treatment Center. All these partners provide released inmates with an opportunity to stay on task, on program, and to avoid a trip back to the jail. I've been able to share our accomplishments, but I'd like to emphasize how far we have yet to go. As of October 1, 25, our amazing medical team has become part of the Indian River County Sheriff's Office, and we're very proud to be a part of this organization. We are so passionate about the task at hand, and we have some amazing plans ahead of us. However, the funding cuts that are proposed have the potential to stifle the progress that we've made as a county correctional facility and as a community. Future plans include a more robust medication-assisted treatment program that will combine medications with counseling and behavioral health services to provide a whole patient-centered approach to treating substance use disorders. Plans also include an expansion of our case management program for improved linkage to community medical and behavioral health services, as well as an infirmary that is much needed in the jail. Our goal is to attain accreditation through the National Commission on Correctional Health Care. Achieving standards through NCCHC improves health outcomes in incarcerated individuals, which can reduce mortality and recidivism and strengthen operational efficiency and compliance with legal standards. I thank you for the opportunity to speak today. In closing, I'd just like to say it's our people who make our community. Our people make up our county. If we don't invest in their care and their rehabilitation, what will our community look like? Funding cuts will affect our standard of care. Funding cuts will increase our potential for negative outcomes and litigation, which will result in increased money for the taxpayers. Funding cuts will contribute to recidivism. And without the funds and the ability to invest in some of these individuals who want to change the trajectory of their lives, funding cuts will affect our community.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Don Robinson. I'm a Marine Deputy at the Sheriff's Office. Just coming to some of the cuts that you guys were talking about, right? My purpose is to emphasize the critical need to maintain the Marine unit's operational and maintenance budget to ensure proactive patrols, life-saving readiness, and maritime security for Indian River County, okay? Our boats must remain properly serviced and maintained to ensure immediate response capability. Without this budget, we become more reactive, reducing safety and effectiveness. Indian River County has one of the most dangerous inlets in the state of Florida, okay? Reliable, well-maintained vessels are essential for safe and a timely response. Our coverage area is about 114 square miles of waterway, 22.4 miles of coastline, and our patrols extend 3 miles off the coast, which is within our jurisdiction, okay? The county also has 11,045 registered vessels. Our response time right now is about average 20 minutes if our boat's on the lift. If we got rid of our lift, you're looking triple to quadruple that. It's an 18,000-pound boat, 250 gallons of fuel. You're looking at 20,000 pounds. You can't drive that maybe over 60 miles an hour, but then you're putting yourself at risk and other people in the community, okay? A Coast Guard response time average is about 1 hour. Active patrols have directly saved lives during emergencies. Immediate readiness is vital for water rescues and search and rescue operations. A visible Marine presence deters theft, narcotics trafficking, and boating under the influence. We also serve as a deterrent for illegal immigration. Recent Fort Pierce landing attempt was thwarted by proactive enforcement down there in St. Lucie County. We were involved up here, having those units on the water stop the landing from happening. Well, it happened in the inlet. Everybody was arrested, including spotters on land. Regular patrols build public trust, demonstrate readiness, and enhance awareness of the Sheriff's Office capability on the water. The officer from Vero Beach Police Department, he just left. So their one Marine deputy is now gone. Sebastian Police Department, they have a boat, they don't have a lift. It stays at their station, never moves. So our boat's on the water 7 days a week. Conclusion, right? Eliminating or reducing the Marine unit maintenance budget would endanger public safety, reduce crime deterrence, and cripple response capability in emergencies. Maintaining this funding ensures we remain proactive, prepared, and capable of protecting the people and waterways of Indian River County.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is John Lozada. I am one of the pilots for the Indian River County Sheriff's Office Aviation Unit. This funding is critical for maintaining a safety, reliability, and readiness for all of our helicopters, which are essential for public missions, including search, rescue, suspect tracking, disaster response. All of our helicopters must adhere to FAA manufacturer mandated inspections and overhaul intervals. These are non-negotiable safety requirements, not optional expenditures. The current budget supports these scheduled services to ensure the aircraft remains airworthy and mission ready. A reduction in maintenance funds would directly affect aircraft availability and could ground any helicopter until required inspections and overhauls are completed. Aviation oil and lubrication materials have increased 15 to 25% cost over the past 2 years. Specialized parts and labor rates have risen due to limited suppliers and increased demand for our helicopter components. Maintenance costs cannot be deferred without jeopardizing airworthiness or compliance. Any deferral of these maintenance actions will result in the aircraft being grounded until the funds are restored. I'll give a quick example. The other day I was pre-flighting a helicopter and I noticed that the fuel cap was inoperable. That completely grounded the aircraft. We could not fly it unless it was fixed. We had to spend $3,600 to repair that, to make it airworthy again. Okay. The loss of aircraft availability reduces our ability to respond to critical incidents, such as missing persons, fleeing suspects, or any mutual aid for neighboring counties. Deferred maintenance also increases the risk of component failure and escalates long-term repair costs. These funds are essential for keeping our aircraft safe, compliant, and operational, and maintaining a full funding will preserve our aviation unit's readiness and ensure continued service to the citizens of Indian River County. A properly maintained aircraft saves lives, supports deputies on the ground, and protects our community. And I ask for your continued support in ensuring that our helicopters remain airworthy and mission-ready through full maintenance funding.
My name's Tommy Bird. I'm currently assigned to the Indian River Sheriff's Aviation Unit and have been a pilot there for 10 years. I just want to take a few moments to explain to you why our aircrafts require maintenance. Four main factors: flight time, which is hour-based. That flight time varies depending on the mission. I personally flew 8 hours. Unfortunately, when Ms. Susan Tomasi went missing, we searched and searched, but that particular mission took 8 hours of flight time. The calendar time, that's data-based. We can fund for items that we know that have to be replaced past a certain calendar date. The two things that are most important that we don't know are on condition and cleanliness. So on condition means if we see it and it's in a need of repair or replacement, we have to, before we take that aircraft in flight, it has to be replaced immediately. Flight time and calendar time maintenance are mandatory and scheduled according to regulatory and manufacturer requirements. If a mission helicopter is going under required inspection, the helicopter is out of the picture for use, no exceptions. Helicopter inspections could be as quick as 1 to 5 days to 2 to 3 weeks, depending on which inspection is being performed or whether any discrepancies are found. It's at that point it is important to have funds available to have required parts on the shelf if any discrepancy is found pre-flight or post-flight. Just a few items are landing lights, instrument lights, cockpit lights, helmet lip lights, helmet ear cups for noise, aviation oils, aviation greases, special window cleaner for polycarbonate windows, which are a special glass. You can't use ammonia-based items. Full funding would ensure all of the items spoken of would be on the shelf, ready for use, and not delay a required repair. Removing funding from any aviation could cause a delay in response to the call and could have tragic results. The sheriff provided a detailed budget to move forward our agency forward. You cut corners on cakes, not on unnecessary funding. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Eggers. I'm a sergeant here at the Indian River County Sheriff's Office. I'm the current SWAT team commander and have previously served in the capacity as a training unit sergeant. I was hired in July of 2017 by then Sheriff Darrell Lohr, and I'm a resident of Indian River County. In response to the recommended reductions in the categories of ammo, gas, ordnance, and weapons budgets, a couple cost increases with ammunition. 9mm training ammunition. has seen a 2.8% cost increase year over year since 2022. 9mm duty ammunition has seen a 9.7% cost increase year over year from 2023 through 2025. 300 blackout rifle ammunition has seen a 2.5% cost increase year over year also since 2022. As it relates to ordnance, the hand-tossed, right, the tear gas munitions, the things that you see on the news, we carry OC and we carry CS. The cost for a single OC tri-chamber is $50.63. The cost for a single CS tri-chamber is $47.84. 40mm impact munitions. Cost for a single 40mm OC round is $31.55. The cost for a 40mm CS direct impact round is $31.37 per unit. As it relates to weapons and supporting capital purchases, the SWAT team is in the process of purchasing or refurbishing the rifles that we can. They were purchased in 2015, they are 10 years old. The SWAT team is due, armor expires every 5 years. Armor is due this year. The cost of outfitting the SWAT team with armor in 2020, which was manufactured in 2021, was $66,500. The cost for armor, which has to be purchased this fiscal year as it expires in spring of 2026, is $86,927. The SWAT team, Uniform Patrol, also use drones, which haven't been talked about a lot tonight. But in terms of overview for high-risk operations, pre-planning for events and security planning and mapping for locations of elevated risk, right? The unfortunate tragedies that we see on the news, churches, schools, active shooters, attacks at mass attended events. We use a drone software that allows us to do all of those things. It's $9,000 per year per license. As far as operations go with the Sheriff's Office, again, I was hired in July of 2017. Since my date of hire, there have been 9 officer-involved shootings. On average, every 10 months, our deputies are put in a position where they have to use lethal force against a suspect. Since the re-election of President Trump, and politically charged events such as the assassination of Charlie Kirk and reaction to federal immigration policy, you have seen riots and demonstrations all over the county, or all over the country. On average, every 3 weeks, we are dealing with some type of protest or demonstration. So far this year, the SWAT team has been utilized on 54 different operations. That ranges from everything from security at events, to pre-planned operations, search warrant execution, and the most high risk being criminal barricaded suspects, oftentimes which are armed. Of those 54, we've had 7 activations on those type of individuals. Their charges have ranged from first-degree murder to kidnapping to aggravated assault. Where ammunition and costs come in, the agency maintains an active training calendar with a goal of deputies shooting across all 3 disciplines, right, court, corrections, and LE, quarterly. When you shoot that much, you expend tens of thousands of rounds every single year. That also does not include ammunition for outside schools. That also doesn't include ammunition for both of the agency's tactical teams. You have special weapons and tactics on the LE side, and you have the emergency response team on the correction side. Both of those teams train an additional 2 times a month and shoot in addition to regular in-service training. As it relates to getting our hands on these world supply chain issues, using ordnance, for example, there's approximately a 4 to 6 month lead time on any chemical munition or gas ordnance that's ordered. With all of the activity and everything that's going on, that forces us to maintain a stockpile. We can't maintain, enough to handle one incident and then wait 4 to 6 months and hope that nothing else happens. That goes the same for SWAT, and that goes for the same for ERT over in the jail. And I'll end on this. Training, especially when you're talking about firearms, ordnance deployment, high liability things, has to be more than mere familiarity. They have to be to levels of proficiency. I'll go back to the demonstrations. Right? If you pay attention to the news, you've seen numerous instances of agencies, both federal and state, being sued for improper application of less lethal munitions. People being shot in the face or the heads with 40 millimeters pepper balls, right? That's where the proficiency comes in. On Saturday, there was a demonstration at 58th and 60. There were 3,200 people in attendance. Up until this point, these protests in the county or demonstrations have been peaceful. This was the second one in a row where we have had physical fights break out, and they affected arrest on an out-of-county resident who showed up to our protest and got herself arrested for robbery and went to the county jail. Thank you.
Hello, my name is James Betancourt. I've been a deputy for Indian River County for 14 years. I've served in multiple different roles, most of which were active reserve on a volunteer basis at minimal cost, if any, to Indian River County. I was appointed Commander of Medical Training on October 1st, 2024. In the past year, in collaboration with our first responder colleagues at the fire department, we have upgraded our BLS basic life support training to include airway management, where we now are a training site under fire rescue. So we are our own training site, and we're able to issue more advanced training at a cost of $3.30 to the county instead of what we were paying before. We have upgraded our individual first aid kits to include burn gel, eye shields, improved combat gauze, eye and wound rinse, SWAT-T tourniquets for small limbs like in children. We now include stop the bleed and rapid assessment of triage. Junctional tourniquets are for femoral bleeds and growing bleeds. These are quite expensive. They're almost $400 each. Unfortunately, due to budgets, we've had to minimize who we allow to have these, even though, in my opinion, every deputy should have a junctional tourniquet. The little combat application tourniquets don't work if you're bleeding from here or a femoral bleed. We do have them issued currently to our sergeants and lieutenants on the road, but that's going to be a delay, unfortunately. So we've had to figure out a way to have them available as quickly as possible with some limitations on the budget. You may ask yourself, why so much medical training? Well, the average response time for a med truck, which I used to be a volunteer for fire rescue for approximately 10 years, is 5 to 7 minutes, and that's an average, assuming that the scene is safe. If the scene is not safe, fire rescue is not allowed to enter the scene, so we're basically just us. And that's in a best-case scenario. Our deputies are already on the road. They're zoned in places that are closest to the incident that occurs. So that critical time from incident to 5 minutes is what we're trying to take care of. Irreversible exsanguination can occur within 3 minutes. So if you have a real bleed, in 3 minutes you're gone, if it's femoral. Irreversible brain damage can occur in 4 minutes and without oxygen, and severe permanent damage can occur in 9 minutes. So why is this so important? Because of that 0 to 5 minutes. Our health and wellness center right now, or team, is trying to bridge that gap. We are trying to figure out a best way to improve the chain of survival. So LE to medics to ER to definitive care. Some quick numbers, not to bore you, but junctional tourniquets are $349. Our new AEDs, which now have a feedback pad, which means that it'll tell you if you're going deep enough and fast enough, and it runs the whole code for you. They're very nice, but they cost $3,184. Our batteries are $481. This past year that I've been given this position as a commander of medical training, I've had to move monies everywhere. I mean, from corrections, I beg people for monies. And sometimes I use my own credit card if I really, really have to. So total staff trained approximately in this last year, 560 people at the Sheriff's Office are now trained at BLS, airway management, first aid, and some of them even have stop the bleed training. The total county civilians that we've trained in 2004 was 113. We have 14 scheduled next week. We would like to expand all of these programs in an effort to save lives. That's what we're about with health and wellness. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Good afternoon. My name is Amber Greer, and I'm the Procurement Unit Director. I'm going to have more questions than I'm going to have information, and it's genuine concern on where you would like for us to proceed. So I'm going to address some things that we are already doing to eliminate and reduce waste, fraud, and abuse, all those hot topic points. But I'm going to start with uniforms and clothing. So you've recommended a $250,000 deduction in that line item. With those numbers, that will provide us $353,456 to purchase uniforms and clothing for over 400 staff members annually. That would max us at 3 uniforms per person. So if you've listened to my colleagues talk about how they run through the woods and they have inmates that throw biohazardous material on them, 3 uniform replacements per year. Is that really what we want our deputies to be focused on? I can't go and help after Hurricane Milton and remove debris and tree limbs and help victims out of their homes because I'm worried about ripping my clothing. I'm worried about tattering or tearing my uniform shirt. I'm worried about losing my radio holster because that, as of right now, is $129 to replace, okay? In March of 2025, we had 2 deputies that had to have their uniforms replaced while on duty after an altercation with a combative inmate. In June of 2025, a patrol deputy required his uniforms to be replaced after a hazmat incident. He was exposed to fentanyl. These are things that we have to consistently consider. What the spreadsheets don't show you is that we've been in constant communication with our uniform vendors. We anticipated the 25% tariff. That's what our budget included, okay? So with that reduction, we are unable to successfully prepare our staff for incidents that are beyond our control. The next area I'm going to talk about is vehicle and capital, okay? Vehicle equipment. You've recommended a $135,000 cut. There's no indication, no detail, no explanation provided in this area. So the best that I can do is ask, what are your recommendations? Our vehicles run 24/7. County vehicles, for the most part, do not run consistently all day, all the time. Mobile radios for those patrol vehicles, in 2020, we purchased them for $3,100. They're now $3,700. For the hide and pop for the K-9 vehicles, in 2020, we purchased those for $3,100. In 2025, they were $5,700. I can go on and on about price increases. The cages for the K-9 vehicles, they've doubled. What are your recommendations for us to do? Is the county going to build K-9 cages? Can we get them at a cheaper cost? Because we can't find them. The last area I have to discuss is radios and equipment, okay? There's a almost $13,000 reduction that is suggested here. Again, no clear response as to why this recommendation was made. So I'm gonna give you an example. In July of 2025, our warehouse technicians sent a radio to Communications International to repair damaged speaker wire. CI provided a quote for $1,200 to repair this radio. One of our rock star employees that does not get paid anywhere near what a certified radio technician was able to complete that repair for $16 with a soldering iron off of Amazon. Okay? But because we did not complete that work with CI, they billed us a $78.50 diagnostic fee. What do you want us to do? Would you prefer that we go back to outsourcing our radio repairs? Because right now, we're doing the utmost, the very best that we can to reduce our expenditures. What your spreadsheets don't show is how much we've reduced and we've saved from budgeting from repairs from CI across the board. So if you have any insight, your county, your garages, your staff, where you're getting your uniforms from, please let us know, because I know your uniform vendor can't match ours. Thank you.
Commissioners, I want to say thank you to our dedicated team. Now you commissioners have a choice to make. Fund our budget to meet the needs of our community, or tell us why you refuse to do so. If you won't fund us, then say the hard thing out loud. Say you vote to not provide us with the money we need to purchase ammo, fuel, food for inmates, food for canines, and so much more. Say it out loud in front of God and all the people here and all the people watching at home that you agree with County Administrator John Cikanich's recommended cuts to my budget. It's easy to say all year long you support law enforcement, but you will show your true colors by saying the hard thing out loud here tonight. Thank you.
Sheriff, just one clarification. Sir, we're not cutting your budget.
Cut my request.
Cut the request.
Cut my request.
And I just want you to know that, you know, when we realize that numbers go up, cost of doing business goes up. This is not a budget hearing. Okay? This is the official delivery of the information recommended as per statute guidelines to where we can move that. You still have the capacity to move your funding as you so desire.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that conclude your presentation?
That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak or?
Commissioner, if I may, for a point of order, because this is a public hearing, we want to make sure that we allow, like you said, the public to speak. Is there anything else you would like to say about the public speaking?
Well, once again, I see there's ample attendance, and again, it's been a meeting quite so far, and I anticipate that there will be many that will speak, so please limit your statements to exactly why we're here, and we can try to keep it under 3 minutes so that everybody has the ample opportunity to be able to speak.
Mr. Chairman.
That was nice.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. You said in your opening comments that this meeting today is
Your
about...
name and address for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry, Joanne Barnhart, I live in
Okay.
Vero Beach.
Thank you.
You said in your opening remarks that this meeting today is about clarification, and I appreciate that. And to that end, I want to address something that I think has not been made clear. And I say that having attended all of the meetings you had, the budget workshops, the meetings addressing the budget, and attending the meeting at the Taxpayer Association Board that we had with you and the county administrator. We keep hearing about this 8.7% increase. What we do not hear is the percentage increase for operating expenses. Having attended all of those meetings and looked at the many charts and also having poured over the budget, read it 3 times, and looked at the many charts that the county administrator has provided, it appears to me that the increase, the 8.7% increase, is being used to fund increases in pay for the deputies and the civilian staff. If that's the fact, then that leaves absolutely zero for increased operating expenses. I did some checking, and the Census Bureau for the United States is projecting a 2.8% cost of living adjustment next year for Social Security, which is, calculates cost of living increases in the country. And top economists project that inflation will be somewhere around 2.8% or 3%. So if you subtract out the money that you've allocated for increasing the deputy and the civilian pay, and you multiply the remainder by 3%, just for simplicity's sake, you come up with $2.4 million increased operating expenses. So by the math, and I did it sitting here today, looking at the administrator's charts again and listening to the various people who were speaking, but by the math, the sheriff starts off at least $2.4 million short because he has no increase whatsoever for operating expenses. And then having listened to the presentations that we just listened to, and I want to commend the sheriff's staff because I think they all did a really superb job. in trying to be clear and explaining the effect that the county administrator's reductions would have on the office. But listening to them, particularly the gentleman, the deputy who spoke most recently, the 2.4% increase or 2.8% increase is a far cry from the kinds of increases they're looking at for ammunition and armor and those kinds of things. So respectfully, I request that when you and the county administrator talk about giving the sheriff an 8.7% increase, which you are, that you make it clear that that increase
Thank you, Ms. Poundhorn.
is to be used for deputies.
Appreciate you.
And civilian pay. I have one last thing to say, Mr. Chairman. I want to leave you all with one of my favorite quotes from Colin Powell, who was the former Secretary of State. And he said, "Leadership is the art of accomplishing what the science of management says is impossible." And I want to commend Sheriff Flowers on his leadership.
This is not a sporting event, once again. Thank you. We appreciate.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tony Consolo. I want to start by saying I don't believe any of the county commissioners do not support law enforcement. I'm going to start with that. But with that said, I stand before you today. I'm dismayed and agitated that we're even here today. Okay, let me explain. I don't understand how it all started. You know, I think it's due to a lack of honesty and transparency by the board, and I'm going to explain that. You know, during one of the very first board meetings, there was a statement raised that the board has not raised taxes. That was an untrue statement. You have not raised the millage rate, but you raised taxes. You need to be transparent and honest about what you're saying to your constituents. It was said, and you were the one that said it, Chairman. Okay? Next, when both civilian employees and sworn officers began speaking about their hardships, those were dismissed by the chairman as being untrue. He even claimed that he had to fish to feed his family when he started working. I have a public records request right now to see if you had a fishing license when you first started. It's not back yet, but I promise you when it's released, I'll let you all know. The next is when the administrator gave himself a raise. That was not approved by the board. However, he advised he spoke to each and every one of you. But during that hearing, some of you said he did not say anything to you, and somebody said, I told you no, that you weren't entitled to that raise. Who goes to an attorney and asks them if they're eligible for a raise? It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. The next, during another meeting, there was an idea that was presented that the entire budget be funded by utilizing county reserves. The county administrator talked about how much reserves were in the county fund, the general fund, and the municipal fund. And there was determined that there wasn't enough in the budget to do that. Nobody talked about the over $600 million in reserves that this county has in other funds. Do you know the actual number, Administrator, of how much money is in the county funds that weren't mentioned during these meetings?
It's not an
It's a question.
interrogatory. Not an interrogatory. It's just your opportunity
Okay.
to be able to speak.
So I'm just asking. I'll
Thank
make
you.
a public request for that too, don't worry about it. So I asked, was that statement taken seriously? Were you really intended to fund it with the reserves, or was that just to kind of make up for other statements that were made? My question, and then in the last meeting, when you guys came to the final budget and how much you were going to do, I stood right there and said, are you going to allow for public input now? Because my question would have been, what have you cut from the budget? And you said no. Commissioner, you said no, we're not taking any public input. So maybe that's why we're having this meeting today. This community deserves better.
True.
Play it back. Listen to that last meeting if I was standing right there and asked if I could make a comment and you said no. This community deserves better, and
Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Good evening. My name is Chance Martin Sr. I live in Vero Beach. I moved here 10 years ago from the state of Connecticut. I am a retired lieutenant from the Department of Corrections in the state of Connecticut. I have a whole family that worked in the Department of Corrections in Connecticut. Brother, sister, another brother retired as a warden. My father's a retired firefighter from Connecticut. My nephew's a firefighter. My son is a state cop. and my son-in-law is a state cop, so it runs in the blood. So I'm here to protect and hope you guys understand what this badge means. All right? Because I've lived it. And all these people in this room, and all these people that are watching that are in this business to be first responders are living it. So I know many concerns have been brought up by people that spoke. But in my mind, if you don't, or you're not part of law enforcement, you're not part of the military, you don't understand. And no offense to anybody. There is just a part of us and what we do and how we do our job and how we live our life. And when it comes to this county, these families of these sheriff's office, they deal with this stress. But also these people are putting their lives on the line every day. Murders, burglaries, name it. And then they gotta come home to their families and talk to them about it because it's hard to deal with. The sheriff's, sorry. Well, let me just kind of close up. Bottom line is, I think you all got lost. You got lost in this whole budget thing, okay? And it's your responsibility. In other words, what you did with our taxpayer money, you got lost somewhere. Because funding law enforcement, and I'm not saying you're defunding it, because I will not say that word, but not funding it for what he needs compared to the other money you people spent is like taking change out of my Jeep and going to the bank with it. That's what he's asking for, the change in my ashtray. And you can't give him that? That is a failure. You have failed the taxpayers, you have failed the badge, and to me, it's shameful. And lastly, I'll just say, I got 19 seconds, that I hope you take this seriously, because I know there's a lot going on right now with this whole thing, but again, to me, it's pennies on the dollar. I wear this shirt proud. Connecticut CERT team, because I was there. And I know you, two of you guys were there too. And that badge means everything. Thank you for hearing me out, and thank you for coming back from your break on a timely manner.
Okay.
Evening. I'm Michelle Rispoli. I've been employed with the Indian River County Sheriff's Office for almost 10 years now. I'm also an Indian River County resident. The county originally had a great opportunity to work cohesively with the Sheriff's Office, yet you made the decision to restrict our funding and demanding exactly where the funds should be stripped from. I hope you understand that the consequences of your decisions won't be immediately evident. You all make decisions under no real urgency or imminent threat to your life or the lives of others, while in your climate-controlled office, in your comfy chair, enjoying a cup of coffee. Meanwhile, sworn law enforcement is expected to make split-second life-changing decisions where the consequences or rewards of their decisions are typically revealed shortly after, if not immediately. The consequences of your decisions may sometimes go unnoticed. For example, a canine deputy being forced to cover the cost of dog food or for a life-saving vet bill. However, I assure you the consequences of your decisions won't go unnoticed when the life of a deputy is lost on the account we couldn't afford to supply them with more ammunition or a rifle plate insert for their vest. Clearly, there are a number of other very predictable consequences that I could list. However, I know we don't have that kind of time. But in the words of Gordon Graham, if it's predictable, it's preventable. And with all of that being said, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Thank you.
Good evening, Indian River County Commissioners. My name is Pearl McKenzie, and my son is part of the Indian River County Sheriff's Department. And he comes from a family of many law officers. My dad was a policeman. He has an uncle that was a policeman. And I'm here for two reasons, for my son and my grandson, who's here, because he has a merit badge that he's trying to attempt to do, and it's called Citizen in the Nation. Okay, my son desire is to serve and save lives. He has 3 children, 2 who will soon need to go to daycare. And daycare is very, very expensive. And he has had many, many stressful nights. And he's come to me, and I just said to him, son, move on. Go to the next police agency. Port St. Lucie pays a good amount of money. Martin County pays a good amount of money. In West Palm Beach County, which I was born, I said, you can always go there and work. Fortunately for me, my retirement is in place. I continue to work to help him out. My message to the Indian River County commissioners, increase the pay. It will and may make the difference between lives, usefulness, and of the Indian River County Sheriff Department. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lalita Janki, and I've been a resident of this community for well over 25 years. In the past year and something, I have attended almost every Board of Commissioner meetings. I am very sorry that our esteemed sheriff left before he could hear what the rest of the people were going to say. I definitely respect all those who put their lives on the life for us in our community and in our nation. I don't think this whole thing has blown out of proportion. Had we started this earlier, this discussion, this nitty-gritty in public, today I learned the most about what our sheriff's department did. I mean, I was so amazed at everything. I mean, we know how much they do, but each one giving a report to us, I wanted to clap and thank them. So this is not about us not wanting to support the sheriff's department. This is who can we take money from the community and give to them? Who can we penalize? And I sit here and I watch. I have no axe to grind in this. I have no dog in the bone. I'm retired. I am just here coming for the meetings to make our county commissioners accountable so they know that somebody is following. So I'm asking you all, I mean, who can we cut? Which nonprofit can we take money from? Oh, I talk to women and people. Everybody's hurting. Everybody wants more pay. Everybody doesn't have money to go to the doctor. The needs are tremendous. And it is so sad that we can't take care of everyone as they deserve. But please, let's not divide our community and say the commissioners don't want to do something. Maybe there's another way of saying, how can we work this out? Who can we take the money from? Because I was at the meetings when they were deciding, should we take the money that we've got in reserve, and what are the consequences of taking the money out of reserve should there be a problem in the community, should there be a hurricane. So this is not that we don't respect, this is how do we work together to support each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jeff Andros, county resident. I just wanted to address a couple things I heard during the county administrator's presentation. We heard a lot about ways the sheriff's office cannot get the money they requested / need. One thing I did not hear was how the county administrator tried to get them the money they requested or need. It was all about how we can't give it. There's no money there. I think we need to look at credibility. During the beginning of the budget season, when negotiations were supposed to be done, the county administrator in the dead of night was organizing a raise for himself, which he wrote down. I'm not going to I'll tell the commissioners later. It's all there. Come to find out, the county attorney was in on it too. They both got 2 raises now. And you guys made him give the money back for a little bit, but gave back to him anyway. There's been so many cover-ups in this county lately. Everything from the cleaning people that ran around your offices, that was covered up. We have plenty of money to give golden parachutes to employees who got some felony charges, who may be friends with certain brass up there. We have money now to take care of a county vehicle that got submerged in a culvert because somebody was taking a joyride. Oh, that's right, that didn't come out yet. That person's getting a golden parachute. I mean, can you really, the letter, the reason we're here is because there's a letter that was not done properly. It wasn't done during the workshop, it wasn't done during the budget meetings, it was done days later, which kicked off a lawsuit, and that's why you held this meeting today. If the letter was done on time, we would not be here. I don't think anybody can disagree with me on that. But I have to ask all of you commissioners, seriously, think about it, because I asked you the last time I spoke, what is the ceiling for this county administrator? Is there a ceiling here for what he can do wrong? I don't believe these negotiations were ever in good faith. There's a lot more now with these consultants too. All of a sudden, it's the first time I've seen this presentation about how the consultant spending is not my fault, he says, which coincides with the recent Ray McNulty article. Haven't seen it. I've made public records requests, what, Ms. Prado, 5-6 months ago for all the consultants. I did it with you. They just started fulfilling them. There's something that was left out of this. I don't know about all the spending though, the addendums. Well, I'm looking through those records now. That's where the fund's gonna be, the addendums. But again, commissioners, I do not believe negotiations were done in good faith. When you have somebody more worried about giving themselves a raise that y'all had to take back, rather than fund our first responders, there's a problem in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. David.
Hi, y'all. Thomas Kenny, live in Southwest 2016 13th Avenue. Mr. Tukanich in his presentation said that the increase was 28%. Can you correct me on that if I'm wrong, County Administrator, over the last 5 years? So was it 28% or 28 million and 29%? I can't remember exactly. It's been a long evening. 50% increase. Okay. Just so you know, 21, 4.7, 22, 8, 23, 4.1, 24, 3, 25, 2.4, and we're projected, according to Ms. Barnhart, 2.8. These are your consumer price index increases since the sheriff has taken his position. 23%. So you have a huge influx of costs. Everything you've given them, the 21 or 28, 29 million over the last 5 years, it's gone. It's gone in costs. It's just gone. Whether that's cost of living raises, increases with costs, all those, it's gone. It's gone because the costs are skyrocketing. Now they're going to come down. The rate of increase is slowing, but during his time it did not. Now you guys have sat around here and said, you know, we got to look at the forecasting economically and all these different things. You never accounted for this inflation. Never did in this stuff. So now you have serious compression on his giving raises or just bringing people up to the level that they can survive in this type of environment. And that's just reality. And that's something no one thought of. Now, I applaud the sheriff for trying to get the process proper. When you read 3049, it's a two-way street of accountability about how this is going. So you look at the proposed budget, and if you make amendments, you have to give it to them in writing. But it's supposed to be done at a public hearing, what you're calling this tonight. And all of his people came down here. Actually, this is supposed to happen when the millage rate was assigned. Then they were supposed to come here that evening with all these things and say, hey, don't cut this, don't cut that, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that. But no, we're doing it here on a meeting that was announced around October 9th or 10th, as far as I can tell. Normally, these public meetings have a 28-day lead time. Now, to go back to your cost of living increases and the inflation, there's a committee here that's gotten 12 to 15% for the last 3 years called CSAC.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for hearing us tonight. My name is Lamar Noter Giacomo. I live in Vero Beach. I can't help but notice that the TV cameras are gone and we're no longer recording, which is a shame, because I really think that, is the recording on? Okay, I'm not
we
seeing
are.
anything. Okay. All right, very good. Well, thank you. I stand corrected. I just wanted to point out that Florida's CFO, Blaise Angolia, has repeatedly argued that when the tax base increases due to rising property values, local governments should decrease tax rates to prevent an increased financial burden on residents. But I wanted to thank Joanne Barnhart for stating the obvious, is that after the sheriff and his staff came up here and laid everything out in detail, I think that there is money in the county commission for their needs, and I believe, like Joanne Barnhart stated, that they need more money, not less. So I would hope that you would put public safety first above all the other things that you spend money on. That's already been detailed by other people. I won't go there now, but there's a lot of places that you could find the money to give the sheriff proper funding. And also, I've noticed that you have a state-of-the-art facility here, and the school board, $7.3 million, however long ago, that was about 10 years ago. The sheriff's office, to my knowledge, has never been updated. And so we need to give them everything they ask for and more, in my opinion, because public safety comes before everything else. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Rob McCallum, Vero Beach. I'll keep mine quick because I just hear numbers and numbers and numbers. I want to make sure that, we don't lose sight of the fact that these are humans that are working in our county to protect us, and want to make sure that when we're making these decisions, they have to eat, they have to put food on their table, they have to go to school, they have to pay for daycare, they have all these other expenses that we as citizens have. But they are also needing to do all this stuff when they could just go to other counties, make $20,000, $30,000 more. So we want to make sure, as a business decision, are we keeping our top employees and are we paying them a competitive wage? That's my main focus that I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of, because I'm a business guy, I really like numbers, I'm kind of a geek for numbers, but I'm even my head's like, what is going on? So I want to make sure that, we don't lose sight of that. At the end of the day, we're making decisions right now on a budget that is essentially talking about, helping our patrol people out there do their job and make sure that they can live in our community and contribute in our community in positive ways. As a business owner, if my employees are happy, my business is going, it's running smoothly, it's doing everything it needs to do, and everything is just a lot better, well-oiled machine. So just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of the fact that there's humans at the end of these numbers that we're really trying to take care of. So that's my 2 cents, and I did it in under a minute and a half, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCallum.
Good evening, Michael C. Marsh, Indian River County. You heard from all these amazing divisions. You know who you didn't hear from tonight? You didn't hear from your explorers, all those advisors. You know why? It's Monday night. They're teaching Lieutenant Serenity, to make sure when she wants to go in law enforcement, she can. So they couldn't be here tonight, but Papa Bear is. Let's go over a couple things. Body cams. I heard about Axon. That was music to my ears. I screamed about body cams for Indian River County Sheriff's Office. Couldn't get a meeting until Sheriff Flowers came in. Accountability, accessibility, and transparency did not exist. It was a good old boy system. You heard it over and over. Sheriff Flowers inherited a mess. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this single father turned his mess to his message, Commissioner Lohr. And you know something? I was attacked, but you can't keep a good guy down. Unfortunately, Sheriff Flowers came in, new undersheriff. Oh, darn. I'm gonna miss Undersheriff Harpering. But let's keep the main thing the main thing. A wise man once said that. Reentry, combating recidivism. That has been done day one since Sheriff Flowers came in. You guys know about the farm. You know the female inmates are out there. I can't even imagine about these cuts. When you talk about mental health, the mental health of law enforcement, the mental health of these inmates being out there on the road, and you know, a couple other things. Unfortunately, I got a little nervous tonight because Copville was in the building, so I'm trying to compose myself. But for those haters, one at Rock Road that the $100,000 pack didn't quite work out for, and for the other one that has family that works at the sheriff's office, it's amazing. The tabloids, how do you guys speak? And not all of you, but how do you guys speak to these clowns in the media? Not the real media, Sebastian Daly's over there. But, Mr. Chair, you taught me something. There's a workhorse and a show horse. My sheriff is the workhorse, Commissioner Flesher. And lastly, shirts. I wear a lot of shirts. I don't know where Tom Lowther is. I don't know if I'm gonna do Consolo or Flesher, but it's right around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. People are listening. This is ridiculous. Remember what Sheriff Flowers says. You're not funding him. You're not giving him any more money. His is set by the state. So let's remember these men and women that you got to hear from tonight, and that was the best one. I remember sitting here in the budget meeting and listening to Machine Guns for Booking, but we've come a long way, right? So ladies and gentlemen, let's keep the main thing the main thing. And as my friend Wilford Hart always tells me, Psalms 27, that's what I'm reading right now, ladies and gentlemen, and Frog Lake Festival's right around the corner. Good night, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Good evening. My name is Doug McKenzie. Most of y'all know me. Retired. It's been almost a year now. Pretty amazing. 36 years law enforcement for the Indian River County Sheriff's Office. I want y'all to remember something. 36 years, when I first started here, there was one deputy, maybe two deputies working South County, State Road 60, maybe one or two North County, and a sergeant. That's all we had back then. We're talking late 80s. We're now where we have, probably almost 25 to 30 people working a night. All these people that are working. Right now, I've sat in those meetings with you guys over the years, in the MPO meetings, all these different meetings that I've sat in. We have a growth in this county that has ballooned up to where it's insane. Oslo Road is getting ready to get that new interchange. I just went down 43rd Avenue the other day, South County. We have a whole new subdivisions getting ready to go in down there. What's that traffic gonna be like? What's Oslo Road gonna be like? What is the subdivisions that are getting ready to go out west of town on State Road 60 when those go into play? What about the ones in the Sebastian area, all they're gonna go into play? All the traffic that's getting ready to come into this county. What are you gonna do about that? Because right now, I don't see anything getting done about it. No one really cares. We're out there with gold shovels, digging holes so we can get the construction going. But what is going to happen because my children are now on the road, my children are now driving, just like you guys all had your children growing up. Mine now are out there. I've taken pride. I took pride in it, especially with you, Sheriff Lohr. I took pride in the traffic unit and made that traffic unit to where it was just me. There was a time where we didn't have any raises, we didn't get any raises, and you had just me in that unit as the only traffic homicide investigator in Indian River County for a little while. And I prided myself on it. I still pride myself on that. I sit here today, and I want you all to think that that agency right now has 3 deputies. When I left the unit a year ago, there was 6 deputies and me. Now there's 3 and a sergeant, but only 3 of those guys are traffic homicide investigators. They're out there patrolling, they're out there working their butts off. Those guys
You hardly ever see them out there on their bikes anymore. You hardly ever, because they're filling in zones. They're having to fill in to places that they don't need to be. They need to be out here doing the enforcement. They need to be out here doing the work. Right now, you don't have that. What's going to happen when Oslo Road opens? What's going to happen when those subdivisions get built? You know what's going to happen. All of you are going to be calling the sheriff, hey, I need help out there controlling the traffic. I'm getting all these people complaining about it. You know it, and I know it, because I've received those phone calls. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Good to be last. Hi, Kevin Askin, Vero Beach resident, 28-year Navy captain. I understand budgets, but I am new to this argument. A social media post brought me in here to figure out what was going on. So, a couple of questions. I'm just trying to understand what I heard tonight. First, I'd like to thank all those of you who are serving the community on the board, who are civil servants, and our first responders. I understand that that is a thankless job, and all of you are dealing with the thanklessness right now. What I heard tonight is that the Sheriff's Department received an 8.7% increase. What I didn't hear tonight is what that increase is based on and what the needs and requirements are for the department. I didn't hear anything about crime statistics. Are they going up? Are they going down? I didn't hear anything about base pay, where we are within the state, where we are within the country. I heard a lot of anecdotal information, but I didn't hear any real metrics that drive requirements, which is how budgeting actually works. I also didn't hear about other departments, education, public works, whether or not they're taking hits. And none of these are hits. Apparently, we're going up. We're just complaining, or not necessarily complaining, excuse me, it's a bad word, but we're having a disagreement, it sounds like, on how much it should go up. And it should be based on metrics and requirements. And I didn't see any of that here. If I'd seen this in a DOD budget review, we would have sent out the room, come back with your facts. So I really don't even now understand where we are in this county when it comes to law enforcement. Are we less safe, more safe, where we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago? Those have been nice to hear. It sounds overall, and I won't repeat what people have said, but if needs aren't being met, either we're going to have to increase taxes or save money somewhere else. So it sounds like the budget process for this particular department went awry somewhere, or else I wouldn't be at this meeting and I wouldn't have seen a social media post I thought I'd never see coming from Indian River County. I don't know, I can offer any kind of suggestion other than I just want to know, did I hear what I heard tonight, which was more of an airing of grievances between two factions, and when can I come to another meeting and hear requirements, metrics, and understanding the state and the health of our law enforcement in this county? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, good evening. My name's Adam Fetterman. I'm the General Counsel for the Sheriff. Had I known I was playing cleanup tonight, I would have put on a tie, and I apologize that I am not properly attired for you. I have been representing sheriffs for 20 years come this February, and I've had the pleasure of representing 6, including Sheriff Flowers. Even spent an interim time representing Sheriff Lohr, and I'm proud to do so. And it has been a marker of my career to be able to do this. I love seeing democracy in action like I have tonight, and I have to tell you, of all the county commission meetings I've attended across the Treasure Coast, you have Indian River County has the most educated electorate I have witnessed firsthand. You should be proud, regardless of what the outcome is tonight. This is the first time that I've seen a budget dispute get to this point, and it's unfortunate, but you heard the presentations tonight from the sheriff and his team, and literally every single bit of the budget is critical. There's nowhere that you hear to cut. And I understand that we're talking about a reduction from his request and not a cut. I understand the semantics. But your attorney could advise you, if you don't want to believe me, as to the standard upon which you will be judged if and when we have to file an appeal with the state, and that is arbitrary and capricious. And I want to define those terms, that arbitrary means that it is not supported by fact or logic. Capricious meaning that it is made without thought or reason. And Mr. Titkanich made his presentation tonight. I'm making a public records request for that PowerPoint presentation, please. And he presented the same numbers that he did in the letter that he sent us, with no justifications. And I am hoping that before you leave tonight, you will provide us with those justifications. We do not want to proceed with a lawsuit. We do not want to proceed with an appeal to the governor, but we will do the things necessary that we are permitted to under the law and that we have an obligation to under the law. And you have the obligation, folks, and I understand the difficult position that you are in, but you have an obligation to tell us the facts and logic that support the reductions of the sheriff's budget. You have the obligation to provide us the thinking and reasoning behind that. And we have seen none of that. That is why we are here tonight. Mr. Chair, you said this is not a budget hearing. You have the opportunity for it to be so. You can amend a sheriff's budget anytime you'd like. That's why you have an opportunity for it to be so. But you've chosen not to, and you're looking at this, and I'm just taking this from the words that you've shared, as a check the box because we sued you and demanded that this type of hearing occur. But you have the opportunity to make this right. And so I will hope that, A, you will fund the sheriff's budget to the request that he has made. Secondarily, if you cannot do that, provide us the thinking and reasoning. Provide us the facts and logic behind your decision. Thank you for your service and your difficult job that you do.
Thank you, Councilor.
One last thing. The sheriff is still here. He is listening in the lobby.
If I may, Commissioner, I would like to ask a point of clarification from Councilor Fetterman. What portion of the statute are you citing that it says that we have to give this specific logic and reasoning for the position that you have taken that I can see from the actual language that is word for word verbatim from the Florida statute is the board or commission must give written notice of its action to the sheriff and specify in such notice the specific items amended, modified, increased, or reduced. Where in there does it say that we are required to provide the logic or the reasoning?
If you look at the Florida Administrative Code that governs the appeals process, what I said was that the manner in which you will be judged at the appeals process is on the standard of arbitrary or capricious. And if you read the Florida Administrative Code that applies to the appeals process, that is where it clearly states that that's the obligation that you have.
But you will agree with me that that's not the thing that you cited in the lawsuit which the sheriff filed, correct?
Oh, because that lawsuit was a mandamus action to force you to do your jobs, to do the thing that you are commanded to do under 30.49, which was to hold a public hearing at the millage setting forth the manner in which you are amending, modifying, increasing, or decreasing the sheriff's budget. You did not do that. That was the basis for the mandamus action. We have two separate tracks that are occurring here. We have the mandamus action track that is occurring to hold you accountable for, frankly, your failures under 30.49, and we have the appeals process that will also occur that will seek to have the Administration Commission make a decision as to where the sheriff's office should be funded if you cannot arrive at the right funding.
Did the sheriff ever call anybody here to ask for anything to be amended prior to filing that suit?
Oh, as a matter of fact, I believe he did. I don't know the actual days, but I do know that an amendment was sent over to the chairman requesting some items be placed on a commission agenda, and there was crickets.
It's on tomorrow's agenda.
No, but there were crickets for quite some time until it was asked again.
No,
Thank you.
it was not, and it is on tomorrow's agenda.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That request was made on October 1st.
Yes, that's correct. I believe it was made on October 1st, and I believe that predates the filing of the mandamus action.
And it missed the printing of the agenda, and it then was placed on the very next agenda available, which is tomorrow.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. I was simply answering Council's
question.
question. That's fine. I was answering Council's question.
Councilor knew that, but we were responsive, Councilor.
Okay, thank you. Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you. Anyone else? County Administrator?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure I have much to add. I know we provided detail and we were kind of chastised in the actual lawsuit for providing detail. And so we've gone back and we've provided at the object level, which is required, that was stated in the brief and in the statute. We thought the information we provided before was sufficient to provide the sheriff, and I actually personally asked the sheriff at lunch if there's any information that he needs that he does not have, let me know and we'll provide it. Because we didn't think the lawsuit was necessary for the purposes of, we just felt it was a waste of taxpayers' dollars. So with that, we have completed, everything that's required by statute. The sheriff, you have recommended a $6,861,517 increase to his budget, which is 8.7%. There's the three categories of actually the object codes and the percent increases in the revised amounts. These are the more specific items that were considered. And just to go by to share, as noted in the initial letter, we looked at 3- and 5-year trends. We looked at last year's budgets compared to this year's budgets in terms of making consideration and recommendations. And then we looked at the documents they provided us. I mean, by own admission today by the CFO, they now have the full Axon agreement, which is $1.7 million, not something that was provided to me back in September. So with that being the case, I don't have any change. I recommend that you approve the specific object level reductions to the sheriff's FY 25-26 budget request, and we issue the sheriff a revised written notice board of action.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, if there's no further discussion from the commission, I will make a motion that we approve the specific object level reductions to the sheriff's fiscal year 25-26 budget request and issue the sheriff the written notice of board action.
That's a motion by Commissioner Adams, seconded by Vice Chairman Law. Is there any further discussion? Counselor?
If I may, I just want to verify, did we close the public hearing, Mr. Chair?
We did not open the public hearing. This was an opportunity for the public to speak, so I did not gavel it to open it nor to close it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
But everyone had the opportunity, anybody who wished to speak, spoke, and they were not treated as a quasi-judicial hearing where we had people sworn in. So at this point, we left it open to everyone and anyone who wished to speak with the time limitation. Some went over, but we heard from all that wished to. I believe we did. Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. That concludes this meeting. Thank you.